What if I told you the final blow to Meghan Markle's royal relevance didn't come from Prince William, Princess Kate, or even the relentless British press, but from the woman she never saw as a threat? Not a glamorous Hollywood actress, not a tabloid titan, but Duchess Sophie, quiet, reserved, calculated, and, most importantly, trusted. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. This isn't just a royal update. It's a power shift, a palace play no one predicted. And it's happening right now. Because while the cameras were chasing Meghan down Montecito sidewalks and red carpets, King Charles was moving his pieces behind closed palace doors. No tweets, no interviews, just silence, until it was too late to fight back. And Sophie? She was always there, always watching, always listening. Never loud, never flashy. But when the moment came, she didn't hesitate. She walked calmly into Meghan's empty seat and took the crown-shaped key Charles had been holding in his pocket for years. So, what's really going on behind the palace gates? Why did King Charles make his most aggressive royal decision yet? Now? Why Sophie? And why is Los Angeles, thousands of miles from Buckingham Palace, suddenly on fire with gossip, panic, and paparazzi scrambling to rewrite their stories? To understand this seismic shift, we have to rewind. Not to Meghan's wedding, not even to her Oprah interview. We need to go back to the one day King Charles watched his mother lower her head and whisper something into Sophie's ear. The cameras didn't catch what was said, but what followed after. That might just explain everything. Because this story isn't just about royalty. It's about survival. It's about two women, both outsiders to the throne. One, a former actress who turned the palace upside down. The other, a PR expert who once worked for Capital Radio and silently became the Queen's most trusted shadow. And it's about one king, desperate to preserve what his mother built, willing to sacrifice anything and anyone to make sure the crown remains unshaken. Let's begin. Meghan Markle had everything the world told her she needed to win. The looks, the fame, the man, and the story. Oh, the story. A biracial, divorced American actress marrying into the most ancient monarchy on earth? That's the stuff Disney would have called too unrealistic. But the real fairy tale was happening behind Sophie's locked jaw and careful steps. While Meghan was signing Netflix deals and launching podcasts about archetypes, Sophie was visiting trauma centers in Northern Ireland. While Meghan posed with Serena Williams at glitzy galas, Sophie stood in rain-soaked fields in Malawi, shaking hands with nurses who had no clue she was a duchess. Sophie didn't sell herself. She didn't need to. She earned herself, and King Charles noticed. But let's be honest, even he didn't move quickly. For years, he watched as Harry and Meghan torched royal protocol, insulted the institution, and painted themselves as victims. The family remained silent, stoic, and many believed Charles had gone soft. But soft kings don't last long. And Charles? He was just playing the long game. Every scandal Meghan touched chipped away at her credibility. The Oprah bombshells, the Spotify deal collapse, the invisible children rumors, the car chase in New York that no one else witnessed. And then, the final humiliation, Netflix pulled the plug. The same company that had once paid $100 million to have Meghan and Harry tell their story had decided the story was over. But that wasn't the only story ending. Because while Meghan was looking west to Hollywood, Charles was looking inward, toward the future of the crown. Not flashy, not viral, but enduring. And when he asked himself who best represented that royal vision, it wasn't Meghan. It wasn't even Kate. It was Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, the woman the Queen had once whispered to in private. "You remind me of myself at your age." That moment would echo through the halls of Windsor like a prophecy. Because Queen Elizabeth didn't give away compliments easily, least of all when it came to women who married into the firm. But Sophie had earned her affection. She hadn't just married Prince Edward. She had embraced the burden of monarchy with an old-school grace that even the Queen found comforting. While others were breaking the rules, Sophie was memorizing them. While others were monetizing their titles, she was honoring hers. And when the Queen died, there was only one woman who didn't rush to the cameras or to the headlines. One woman who stood back and stepped in. Charles saw it. Camilla saw it. Even Kate saw it. And eventually, the crown made its move. But how do you take a title away from a woman like Meghan Markle? You don't. You wait for her to abandon it. You wait for the Netflix deals to collapse, for the podcast episodes to get stale, for the public to turn, for her grip to loosen. And then you simply give it to someone who never asked for it. Someone who doesn't need attention, because attention follows her naturally. Someone who still believes being royal means being in service, not being on camera. And so, Charles summoned Sophie to Windsor. The meeting was private, quiet, and, according to insiders, emotional. She was reportedly hesitant. Grateful, but hesitant. Taking Meghan's title wasn't a victory, it was a responsibility. But Charles was firm. The family needed stability. Meghan had chosen her path, and Sophie was the future. But even as these palace maneuvers unfolded behind the scenes, Meghan was still in California, unaware that her royal status was being quietly erased, until it was too late. Paparazzi caught her looking downcast outside an organic market in Montecito, just days after news broke of Sophie being reassigned several major roles previously held by Meghan. Sources close to Meghan say she was blindsided. This was supposed to be her era, one insider claimed. The Duchess of Sussex was meant to represent modern monarchy. Now she's not even on the guest list. And that's where it gets darker. Because what started as a symbolic transfer of royal favor quickly became something far more personal. Suddenly, Sophie was attending events once meant for Meghan. Charities once linked to Meghan were appearing on Sophie's itinerary. Even royal stylists began drawing comparisons between Sophie's soft pastels and Meghan's early royal fashion. The press noticed. The public responded. And Meghan? She panicked. Multiple sources report that Meghan demanded urgent meetings with her PR team. Some claim she even considered a return to the UK to reclaim her space in the monarchy. But the space was gone. Sophie was already standing in it. And she wasn't moving. Not for cameras. Not for headlines. Not even for Meghan. Because Sophie never asked for attention. She earned respect. And King Charles, now facing the enormous pressure of steering the monarchy into an uncertain future, knew he needed someone like that in his corner. So what comes next? Why did Sophie accept the role now? And what secret instructions did Queen Elizabeth leave behind that might explain it all? And Meghan, what will she do now that the throne she once touched has been given to someone who never even raised her voice to claim it? Buckle up, because the next chapter takes us deep into the royal halls of Windsor, where one title changed hands, and chaos erupted in LA. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Did Meghan Markle ever really see Sophie coming? Or did she think, like so many others did at first, that the quiet woman from the shadows of the royal family was too gentle, too old-fashioned, too irrelevant to ever pose a threat? Because here's the truth. Not all battles are fought in the open. And not every threat wears designer heels and steps out of luxury SUVs. Some come in silence. Some smile while they move the board. And some don't need to fight, because they've already won the trust of the only people who matter. Let's go back. Not to the wedding. Not to the bombshell interviews. Let's rewind to the very beginning. The moment Meghan Markle first stepped into the royal family, and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, greeted her with a handshake and a knowing glance. It was 2018. The world was watching. Meghan was fresh off her engagement to Prince Harry, the palace was buzzing, and the British press was already hungry. Everyone expected drama. What they didn't expect was Sophie. She had been in the family for nearly 2 decades by then, married to Prince Edward, a consistent, dependable royal. Not flashy, not loud, just reliable. The Queen adored her. Charles respected her and trusted her. But Meghan? She barely noticed her. Why? Because Sophie didn't sparkle like Meghan did. She didn't trend on Twitter. She didn't wear Hollywood glam or headline Vanity Fair. She wore tailored jackets, gave quiet speeches, and stayed in the background. To someone like Meghan, that might have looked like weakness. But it wasn't. It was strategy. Sophie knew something Meghan didn't. The crown doesn't reward noise. It rewards loyalty. And the war for the royal family's future wasn't going to be won on red carpets. It was going to be won behind closed doors. Now here's the thing most people don't know. In the early days, the palace actually tried to pair Meghan with Sophie as a mentor, a soft landing into royal life. Someone who'd been through the trials, who'd made mistakes, who knew how to survive it. But reportedly, Meghan wasn't interested. According to palace insiders, she thought she didn't need help. She was already famous, already successful. She was marrying a prince. She had this. Sophie, in her usual composed way, didn't push. She stepped back. She watched. And maybe, just maybe, she knew it wouldn't be long before the cracks started showing. Because royal life? It's not about glitz. It's not about glam. It's not even about love stories. It's about endurance. Sophie learned that the hard way. Long before Meghan, Sophie had her own scandal. Remember the fake chic sting operation in 2001? Sophie was caught in a media trap, speaking too freely about politics and royal life, while thinking she was talking to a potential client. The headlines were brutal. The embarrassment was massive. But instead of fleeing, Sophie did something Meghan never managed to do. She stayed. She apologized. And she rebuilt. Brick by quiet brick. That sting could have destroyed her royal future. Instead, it forged it. It was after that moment the Queen reportedly began to see Sophie not just as a daughter-in-law, but as a trusted ally. So fast forward to Meghan. She never had that fall and rise arc. She had the fairy tale, and then the firestorm. And when that firestorm came, she didn't stay. She left. With Harry. With contracts. With cameras. And Sophie? She stayed behind. Cleaning up the mess. Not publicly. Not with speeches or op-eds. But with presence. With service. With consistency. While Meghan and Harry were giving explosive interviews in California, Sophie was attending quietly underreported engagements in England. Opening hospitals. Visiting charities. Showing up where cameras didn't bother to go. There was no applause. No trending hashtags. But the palace noticed. And slowly, silently, so did the people. Let me ask you something. What lasts longer? Loud drama or quiet dignity? Which one does a king trust more? By 2022, the answer was clear. Because while Meghan was accused of leaking stories to the press, Sophie was keeping secrets. Important ones. Like her conversations with Queen Elizabeth in her final year. Multiple insiders have claimed that the Queen often invited Sophie for private tea. Not Camilla. Not Kate. Not Meghan. Sophie. Why? Because she didn't speak out of turn. She didn't seek power. She didn't chase headlines. And the Queen knew the institution was fragile. Too many scandals. Too much noise. Too many egos trying to pull the monarchy in different directions. She needed someone who would protect it, not reinvent it. And in Sophie, she saw exactly that. Now here's where things really get interesting. Because while Sophie was quietly rising, Meghan was quietly falling. Netflix was turning cold. Spotify deals were unraveling. Archetypes wasn't getting renewed. Pearl was canceled. And Meghan's personal brand? Let's just say it went from empowered royal rebel to controversial ex-royal liability in record time. Still, Meghan didn't see Sophie. She was looking at William, at Kate, at Charles, at Camilla. She thought the battlefield was crowded. But the real challenge was right behind her. The one she never suspected. The one who wasn't fighting for the spotlight, because she already had the throne's quiet approval. By mid-2023, something shifted. Royal insiders started to notice a change in palace protocol. Sophie was being handed more visible roles, given more high-profile engagements. Her presence at royal functions was being elevated. She was being positioned, not just as a senior royal, but as a stabilizing figure. And Meghan? She was being erased. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't loud. It was calculated. Charities she once championed began releasing quiet statements thanking the Duchess of Edinburgh for her ongoing support. Royal newsletters stopped mentioning the Sussexes. And when it came time to choose who would accompany King Charles to international summits, Sophie was picked. Not Meghan. Not Harry. And the public? They responded. Polls showed Sophie's approval ratings rising. Her likability climbing. She was being called the new people's Duchess. Not because she asked for it. Because she earned it. That's the difference. Meghan made a splash. Sophie made an impact. And now? Now, the woman Meghan once saw as irrelevant has taken everything she left behind. Not out of spite, but out of duty. And Meghan, for the first time, she's beginning to realize the threat wasn't a rival with more followers. It was a duchess with more patience. So where does that leave us? Two women. Two duchesses. Two completely different strategies. One chased the crown and lost it. The other walked quietly and found it waiting. But this rivalry isn't over. Because Sophie has just been handed the very role Meghan built her brand around. And Meghan? She's not done fighting. which is exactly why King Charles had to act fast. Because the next move would change not just the family, but the monarchy itself. And it started with a letter Sophie received from the palace. One Meghan never saw coming. What was inside? We're about to find out. But what came next would turn royal silence into a global shockwave.